always thought the hardest nights were the quiet ones, the ones where the world fell asleep, except for me and my little boy breathing in the dark. But I was wrong. The hardest night of my life didn't come quietly. It came like a punch to the chest. It started around 11:40 p.m. My baby, Liam, had been coughing all day, but I thought it was just a cold. Kids get sick, right? Cold air, milk before bedtime, teething. Every mom online had a theory for everything. And I was doing everything they said. Warm bath, humidifier, baby Tylenol, chest rubs. But nothing helped. And by midnight, I knew something was really wrong. He felt too. Hot, not warm. Hot. His skin was burning against. My arms like he'd swallowed fire. He couldn't breathe right. His little chest kept rising and falling too fast. Faster than any 1-year-old's. Chest should move, and then the sound came. This sharp, rattling gasp. Like he was trying to pull air from somewhere too far away. My heart dropped so hard I swear I heard it hit the floor. I grabbed my phone, ran my thumb across the cracked screen. But the moment I opened Apple Pay, it stared right back at me, insufficient. Funds, those 2 words felt heavier than any sickness. I checked my balance again. $10. $10 in my bank account. Not enough for an Uber. Not enough for a cab. Not enough for anything. I had rent due in the morning, and groceries I'd stretched over the last week. I had diapers, but only 5 left, and I was doing that stupid single mom math in my head. If I don't take him now, maybe he gets better. Maybe it's just a flu. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he doesn't need a hospital yet. But one look at his face broke every excuse. He was turning pale. My baby boy, who usually kicked and laughed and grabbed my hair like it belonged, to him was suddenly too quiet, too still. Only whimpering. Every few seconds, like even crying hurt, I held him tighter and whispered, "Baby, I'm here. Mommy's here. It's okay. I'm gonna get you help. I promise." But promising doesn't fix empty pockets. I looked at the door, looked at the phone, looked at my sleeping baby, and for the first time since becoming a mom, I felt helpless in a way nobody prepares you for. Nobody tells you that motherhood has moments where you'd burn the whole world down, but can't even afford a ride across town. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. I opened my messages, scrolled through every contact. Coworkers, neighbors, people I barely talked to. I swallowed my pride and started typing, "Can you take me to the hospital? It's an emergency. 1 message, 259 seen, no reply. Delivered. No reply. Ignored. No reply." I felt this heat rise up my throat. Fear, shame, anger, all mixed together. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I messaged a number I hadn't touched in 2 years. A number saved under a name I'd almost forgotten. "Please. I don't know who else to ask. My baby can't breathe." I stared at the screen after sending it. Heart pounding, hoping, praying, begging in silence. No response. For a moment I thought about running outside in my pajamas, begging strangers, knocking on doors, but the streets outside my apartment weren't the kind you run around in at midnight. Not for help, not for anything safe. I held Liam close, rocking him while he gasped, and my chest ached like something was cracking inside me. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Nothing. I felt my knees give out as I sank onto the floor beside the couch, pressed my forehead against his and whispered, "Please don't leave me. Please, baby. Please hold on." My tears fell onto his cheeks, hot tears mixing. With his fever, I don't know how long I sat, like that time felt twisted. I felt stuck in some horrible moment, between hope and heartbreak, and then a low rumble shook the ground outside. Not 1 engine, not 2, several. Froze. The lights from outside swept through the thin curtains, bright, white, powerful lights that didn't belong on my street. I stood up slowly, clutching Liam to my chest. My heart was racing, but not in fear. Not yet, because something about that sound wasn't normal. I walked to the window and pulled the curtain back just a little, and my breath caught in my throat. 3 black SUVs, big, sleek and expensive, rolled up in front of my building. Not normal cars, not neighborhood cars. These were the kind of cars you only see in movies or outside fancy hotels. Deep tinted windows, chrome rims, engines. Too quiet for how powerful they looked. They didn't belong on my street. They didn't belong anywhere near me. My first thought was, wrong address. My second thought, police. My third thought, the one that made my whole body turn cold, was, they're here for me. But why? Before I could move, the doors opened, all at once, like they practiced it. Men stepped out, dressed in dark coats, clean shoes, straight posture, earpieces like Secret Service. They didn't look angry. They didn't look frantic. They looked focused. One of them lifted his gaze toward my building, straight at my window, like he already knew I was standing there. I stumbled back in shock. What was happening? Who were they? How did they know where I lived? Was I in trouble? Was my message sent to the wrong number? My heart pounded so hard I thought I might drop. Liam. Someone buzzed the downstairs door, jumped. Then again, and again. Rapid, precise, not random, like they were sure, like they were here for me. Didn't move. Then a voice came. Through the old crackling intercom, calm, deep. Steady, ma'am, we're here to help. Please open the door. My blood froze. My mind spun. My baby whimpered against my shoulder. I backed away, whispering, "What is this? What is happening?" But a tiny voice inside me, the desperate mother voice, whispered back, "Open the door. He needs help. You have no other choice." My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. I unlocked it, opened it just an inch, and the world on the other side was nothing like mine. 2 men stood there, tall, dressed like bodyguards. Behind them, one more, and one woman holding a medical bag. The closest man looked at me gently, not forcefully. "Miss, are you the one who texted earlier?" My heart skipped. The message. The number. Had someone actually answered? I clutched Liam tighter, my voice shaking. Yes, that was me. "My baby, he can't breathe." The man nodded, stepped back slightly as the woman moved forward. "Let me see him." She wasn't nervous. She wasn't confused. She acted like she'd been waiting for this moment all night. She touched his forehead, checked his breathing, listened to his chest with a stethoscope she pulled out so fast it looked instinctive. "We need to take him in. Now." Before I could speak, they were guiding me outside, and the cold air hit my face like a slap. The SUVs sat there like shadows, doors open, engines humming, lights glowing through the misty night air. I slid into the back seat, still terrified, still confused, still clutching my baby. The woman got in beside me, monitoring Liam's breathing. Another man sat in front. As the door shut, the man in the front seat turned slightly and asked quietly, "Miss, do you know who sent us?" I shook my head. "No, I don't even know who you are." The man exchanged a look with the woman, a look that told me there was a lot I didn't know. The SUV pulled off, smooth, fast, too coordinated. My heart was racing, my baby was fading, my whole world felt like it was spinning. And then, the man in front finally said, "The one who sent us." He said you saved his life once. I stared at him, confused, terrified, lost. I've never saved anyone's life. He turned his head fully this time, eyes soft. Maybe not in a way you remember, but he remembers, and he's been looking for you ever since. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Who remembers me? Who did I help? The man exhaled slowly. You'll understand soon. I swallowed hard. Just tell me who he is. But he didn't answer. Not yet. He simply said, "The CEO will explain everything." My heart stuttered. CEO? A CEO sent you for me? The woman beside me tightened her grip on the oxygen mask she was holding to Liam's face. He said to tell you, you're not alone tonight. And that's the moment, the exact moment, I realized this night, was about to change my life forever. Forever. The city blurred past the tinted windows as the SUV sped through streets faster than I'd ever seen anyone drive without sirens. Streetlights streaked across my vision. Gold, white, gold. Like time was moving too fast for me to understand what was happening. Liam's tiny breaths were shallow and uneven, and every rise of his chest felt like borrowed time. I held him against me, whispering his name over and over like saying it might keep him alive. The woman next to me, calm, focused, not even blinking, adjusted the oxygen mask over his mouth. Her voice was low, steady, like she'd done this 1,000 times. He's fighting. Babies fight hard. I don't understand, I whispered, my lips trembling. Why is a CEO sending you? Who even is he? The man in the front seat finally responded, his voice quiet but sure. Someone who owes you more than you know. I squeezed Liam tighter. I've never met a CEO in my life. The woman gave me a look. Soft, but meaningful. Maybe not as a CEO. The SUV made a sharp turn, the kind of turn regular cars don't take, the kind of turn only someone with clearance or confidence would dare. We were heading toward the richer part of town. I could tell by the way the broken roads smoothed out and the houses grew bigger. My mind raced. A CEO? Sending medical staff? Sending security cars? At midnight for me, it didn't make sense. Nothing in my life was big or important enough for this. I was just a girl from a worn-down apartment with a sick baby and an empty wallet. Why? My voice cracked. Why would he even care? Why me? The woman checked Liam's pulse with a small device, then said quietly, he said, if you ever needed help, any kind, he'd come running. I stared, speechless. The man in front added, he told us, if she ever reaches out, you get to her before anyone else does. I felt my breath catch. Before anyone else does? Why would anyone else need to get to me? This wasn't charity. This wasn't normal kindness. Someone out there was determined, almost obsessed with helping me. My stomach twisted with fear and confusion. SUV slowed as we turned into a private entrance behind a hospital. Not the emergency entrance, not for the public. This was some hidden, secured access point I didn't even know normal people could use. A guard scanned the windshield, then waved us through without a word. What is this? I whispered. The woman answered without looking up from Liam. A private ER wing. Not open to the public. My jaw tightened. Then why am I here? Because he said you come first. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or terrified. The moment the SUV stopped, 2 more medical staff rushed out, opening the door before I could even move. They gently took Liam from my arms, transferring him into a small mobile bed packed with machines. My heart lurched as his tiny fingers slipped from mine. Wait, don't take him. You're coming with us, one of the nurses assured, guiding me alongside them as they pushed the bed. Through the private corridor, everything moved too fast. Bright white lights, sterile floors, people, with badges and equipment moving like they'd rehearsed this for hours, all. For my little boy, they wheeled Liam through a set of double doors so quickly I only caught the flash of his curled hand before the doors swung. Shut, I tried to follow, but a nurse blocked me. You can't go in yet, ma'am. We need 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes felt like 2 centuries. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from sobbing. My whole body shook. My knees felt weak. Please, please save him. My voice was barely a whisper. We will. I promise, the nurse said. But promises like that aren't easy to believe when your baby's life is behind a closed door. I leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, trying not to collapse. Everything felt blurry and too bright. Then I felt it. A presence behind me. A soft shift in the air, like someone with a heavy aura had stepped into the hallway. I didn't turn at first. I was too scared, too overwhelmed. But then I heard footsteps. Slow, steady, expensive, the kind of sound polished shoes make on hospital floors. A man's voice broke the silence. Low, rich, smooth, calm, in a way that didn't match the storm inside. Me. I came as fast as I could. My breath stalled. I turned. At first, I didn't recognize him. A tall man in a dark tailored coat wet from the rain. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, His tie loosened like he'd ripped it off during the drive. His hair messed up like he'd been running his hands through it. His eyes, sharp, intense, dark, locked onto me with something heavy behind them. Something personal. He looked like a CEO. He looked like trouble. He looked like a storm disguised as a man. But he also looked familiar. My lips parted. I don't know you. He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, you do. I shook my head. No, I've never met you, he swallowed, jaw tightening, emotion flickering through his eyes like he was holding back something big. You knew me, he said quietly. A long time ago. Before all this. My heart pounded. I studied his face. Searching. Scanning. Trying to dig through old memories buried under years of surviving. It's okay if you don't remember, he said gently. But I remember you. Every detail. I froze. Who was this man? How did he know me? Why did his voice feel like some distant echo? I stared at him, breath shaking. Why did you help me? I whispered. Why send all of this? He stepped close enough that I could feel the warmth of him in the cold hallway. Because once, he said softly, you saved me when no one else would. My chest tightened. And I said, the day you needed me, just once, I'd move the whole damn world to get to you. My heart slammed against my ribs. What? What did I do? I whispered. He breathed out slowly. You don't remember, he murmured, almost to himself. I'm sorry, I said helplessly. I don't, he nodded once, accepting it. Not hurt, not angry, just resigned. Then he straightened, smoothing his coat, slipping back into CEO mode, controlled, powerful, intimidating. He extended a hand slightly toward the double doors where they were treating Liam. You don't have to understand everything tonight, he said. Just know you're safe now. Your son is safe. My voice broke. Why are you doing this? He looked into my eyes, long enough and deep enough to make my breath catch. Because, sweetheart. His voice dropped, warm and devastating. I owe you a lifetime. The hallway suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too heavy with the weight of everything I didn't understand. His words echoed in my head. I owe you a lifetime. I stared at him, trying to place the face I swore I'd never seen. There was something in his eyes, though something tired, something sad, something familiar in a way that made my chest tighten, but I still couldn't pull the memory out. He slipped his hands into the pockets of his coat, his expression steady, almost unreadable, but underneath it, there was this softness he was trying hard to hide. You don't have to look at me like I'm a stranger, he said quietly. I wasn't always this guy in a suit. My throat tightened. I don't understand any of this, I whispered. I sent a message to a community help group. I didn't know it would reach someone like you. He shook his head. That message wasn't the important part. Then what was? That it came from you. My breath tangled. What difference does that make? I asked. He stepped closer, not touching me, but close enough that I felt the gravity of him. You saved a boy once, he said softly. And that boy grew up remembering every meal you handed to him through a cracked door. Every night you knocked, pretending it was nothing. Every time you told his mother to rest because she'd had enough for one lifetime. My lips parted, but no sound came out. I'd done that years ago in the old neighborhood before life went sideways, before I became a mother myself. But there were so many kids I'd helped, so many families who had nothing. I didn't know which one he could possibly be. His eyes softened with something painfully vulnerable. You were 17. I was 15. 2 houses down. My mom worked nights. My brother cried himself to sleep most days. A cold wave ran through me. I blinked hard. There was a boy. A quiet one. Dark hair, skinny, always wearing a hoodie too big for him. I used to leave homemade food at their door. Sometimes I'd sit with his little brother while their mom worked double shifts. But that boy disappeared one day. Their whole family left in a rush, overnight. No goodbye, no explanation. My voice cracked. You were that kid? He nodded once. I felt my knees weaken. You grew up. Yeah, he said, almost smiling. Turns out that happens. You're a CEO now? He let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Wild, right? One minute you're a broke kid begging the landlord not to shut the heat off. The next minute you're signing million-dollar contracts. His expression softened again. But none of that feels as important as this. I swallowed hard. But still. How did my message reach you? You used my company's app, he said simply. We run a community support program, he shrugged. It flagged your message. I saw your name. Everything stopped. I stared at him, stunned. You came all the way across the city. At midnight, for me? I would have come if you were on the other side of the world. My breath hitched. His voice wasn't dramatic. He wasn't performing. He meant every word. Why? I whispered. His eyes glistened. Just a flicker. But it was there. Because you fed me when my world was falling apart, he said. And you never asked for anything. Not even my name. I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to breathe. I didn't do anything special. You did more than enough, he replied softly. You kept me alive. I shook my head, overwhelmed. I didn't know. I didn't realize it mattered that much. It mattered, he said, voice thickening. More than you will ever understand. Before I could say another word, the double doors opened and a doctor stepped out, pulling off his gloves. My heart leaped into my throat. Is he okay? I whispered. The doctor nodded. He's stable. We need to run more tests, but he's responding well. My knees almost gave out. I covered my face with my hands, letting out a sob of pure relief. The CEO stepped closer, his voice low and steady. You're not alone in this anymore. I wiped my tears, still shaking. You don't even know me, I whispered. He hesitated. Then his voice dropped to a level that felt like a confession. I've known you my whole life. I froze. Breath held. He took a slow breath, as if preparing to say something he'd carried inside for years. You saved me long before I had anything to give back, he said. And from the moment I saw your name on that message, he paused. I swore I'd never let you struggle alone again. I stared at him, completely undone. Why me? I whispered. His jaw clenched. His voice broke, just slightly. Because you were the first person who ever showed me what kindness looks like. And before I could answer, the doctor called, You can come see your son now. I turned toward the doors, my heart racing. But before I walked through, I heard him behind me, his voice softer than ever. And I'm not going anywhere. Not tonight. Not ever. I walked into the hospital room on legs that didn't feel like mine. My little boy lay there, wrapped in warm blankets, a tiny oxygen mask covering his face. His chest rose and fell, slow, steady, fighting. Machines beeped softly beside him, each sound a lifeline pulling me back from the edge. I moved closer, brushing my fingers through his hair. Baby, I'm right here, I whispered. Mama's right here. His hand twitched, barely, but enough to make my heart soar and shatter all at once. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead gently against his, warm, alive, still here. I felt my breath shake as tears slipped down my cheeks. Something inside me cracked open, relief, fear, everything I'd been holding and just spilling out without permission. Behind me, the door clicked softly. I didn't have to look to know it was him. He stayed by the doorway at first, almost like he was afraid of stepping into a moment that wasn't his to touch. But then he stepped closer, slow and quiet, stopping right beside me. He's strong, he said gently. He gets that from you. I didn't answer. I didn't know how to. All I could do was stare at my son, trying to memorize every breath he took. After a moment, I felt a small warmth on my back, his hand, hovering just enough to give support without crossing a line. You did everything right, he said softly. You got him help just in time. A hollow laugh escaped me, shaky and exhausted. No, I whispered. I didn't. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the insurance. I didn't have anything. You had courage, he said, and that's what saved him. I swallowed hard. No, I said, voice breaking. You saved him. For a second, he didn't answer. Then his voice lowered, deeper, almost rough. You saved me first. I turned to face him. Really look at him. This man who'd come into my life like a storm I didn't see coming. His eyes weren't cold. CEO eyes. They weren't distant or polished or rehearsed. They were raw, honest, almost grateful. Why did you never come back? I asked suddenly. The question came out before I could stop it. Back then, when your family left, I didn't even get to say goodbye. Something flickered in his expression. Pain, guilt, something old and still bleeding. I wanted to, he whispered. I swear I did. But things got complicated. My mom moved us overnight. She didn't want anyone to know how bad things were. And I was just a kid. You were the only good thing I had. And then suddenly we were gone. He exhaled shakily. I thought about you every day after that. My heart sank, strangely heavy. Why didn't you try to find me sooner? He let out a breath that almost sounded like disbelief. I did, he said. For years. I blinked. What? You think I forgot you? He whispered. You think I forgot the girl who fed me when I was starving? Who kept my little brother warm when the heat shut off? Who told us stories so we wouldn't feel embarrassed about needing help? I stared at him, stunned. His voice softened, full of something I wasn't ready for. I looked for you, he said again, in every neighborhood we moved to. Every time I came back to the city, even after I started my company. I tried. Then how did you find me? I asked quietly. He gave a breathless little laugh. You found me, he said, with one message. One call for help. I felt my chest tighten. That message wasn't meant for you. I know, he replied, but maybe it was meant for the person who needed to see it. The room felt too small then, too full of things I didn't know how to hold. My son shifted slightly in his sleep. I brushed his cheek. I can't repay you, I whispered. He stepped closer, his voice barely above a breath. I didn't come for repayment. Then why? He hesitated, and when he spoke again, his voice carried something deeper, something that pulled the ground out from under me. Because I promised myself, the moment I had the power to help someone the way you helped me, I wouldn't hesitate. I swallowed hard. That's not all, I said. There's something else. His jaw tightened slightly, like he wasn't sure if he should say the rest. Finally, he did. I didn't come here because you needed me, he said quietly. I came because I still need you. My breath caught. Before I could answer, before I could even process his words, a nurse walked in with a chart. He stepped back slightly, giving me space, but he didn't leave. He wasn't going anywhere. The nurse checked my son's vitals, smiled gently, then slipped out, leaving us alone again. Silence settled, soft and heavy. I looked at him. This man from my past, this stranger, this CEO with eyes full of history and warmth, and I whispered, "What happens now?" He didn't smile, he didn't joke, he didn't give a simple answer. He just said the one thing that made the entire world shift under my feet. Now, he said, I'm here for you, for both of you, and I'm not disappearing again. And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. And that was the moment I realized something. Something I hadn't allowed myself to admit all night. I wasn't just scared for my baby. I was terrified of the truth behind those headlights, because people like me, single moms with $14 in the bank and a baby fighting for breath, don't get saved by men who step out of luxury SUVs at midnight like they own the damn world. That's not how life works. That's not how my life ever worked. So why tonight? Why him? Why now? My hands were shaking as I held my baby close. his tiny fingers curled around my thumb, his skin burning with fever. And for one split second, one tiny, breathless second, I swear I saw something in that man's eyes when he looked at us. Recognition. Pain. Something personal. Something old. He didn't say a word. He just nodded to his men. And suddenly everything moved fast, too fast, like the world had been waiting for this moment without telling me. Doors opened, arms reached out. They took my son with so much care it made my throat close up. Someone guided me into the back seat of a black SUV so smooth and expensive, I didn't even want to breathe. Wrong inside it, and all the while, that man, that CEO, walked beside us silently, like a storm that had finally found the place it was heading. I clutched my son and whispered, "Please don't die. Please don't die on me." And through the glass reflection, I caught one more glimpse of him, the CEO, watching us, jaw tight, eyes dark, like he was reliving something he never wanted to remember. Something about the way he looked at my baby. And then at me, made my heart drop to the floor, like somehow we weren't strangers at all. The engine roared to life. The SUV sped into the night, and I had no idea that this man, this powerful man who could have ignored us, was about to turn my entire world upside down. I didn't know his name. I didn't know his story. I didn't know why he helped me. All I knew was everything in my life was about to change. Forever. I don't think I'll ever forget the sound of that hospital sliding door opening. It was like stepping into another universe, one where the lights were too bright. The floor smelled like bleach and old coffee, and everybody walked fast like the world was on fire. And me? I walked in holding my baby like he was the last good thing left on earth. A nurse took one look at him and yelled, "Ped's team, we need a room now." She didn't wait for paperwork, didn't ask insurance, didn't even look at me. She looked at him, my burning, whimpering little boy, and everything else just disappeared. I think that's when my knees started shaking. A doctor rushed over, snapping on gloves. "What's his temp?" I don't know," I whispered. I couldn't." My voice cracked. I was broke as hell. I couldn't even afford a cheap thermometer. He didn't judge me. He just nodded. "It's okay. We'll handle it." They whisked him away, and for a moment I just stood there, completely useless, hands empty, arms cold, heart pounding so loud I could feel it in my teeth. And then I felt someone step beside me. That man. The CEO. Silent. Tall. Presence like gravity. He didn't touch me. Didn't speak. But the way he stood next to me. Steady, unshaken, unfazed by the chaos around us. It was like he'd been preparing for this moment his whole life. I finally forced myself to look at him. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring through the hospital window, where my son was surrounded by doctors, and the expression on his face. It wasn't pity. It wasn't concern. It was something deeper, older. Like a ghost he thought he buried had just walked back into his life. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Why? Why are you helping me?" He didn't answer. Not yet. His jaw tightened, like he wasn't ready to say the words. Or maybe the past was choking him too much to speak. Before I could press again, the nurse called out, "Mom? We need you in here." I ran inside. They laid my son on a tiny table under a warm lamp. His chest rose too fast. His breathing was sharp, uneven, terrifying. "Stay with him," the doctor said. "He needs your voice." So I leaned over him, tears dripping on his blanket. "Hey, baby. Mommy's here. I'm right here. You're okay. You're okay." He opened his eyes for a second, glazed, confused, scared, and something inside me just broke wide open. Wasn't supposed to be sick like this. He wasn't supposed to fight for breath. He wasn't supposed to depend on a stranger in a suit to survive the night. But reality doesn't care about supposed to. Reality hits you when you least expect it, especially when you're alone, especially when you're a single mom trying to be strong enough for two.